Okay, video number 2 of traveling with your kids in a disaster. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the triggers. So you've got your plan. You've got a great plan. Okay, you've thought through everything. You thought through where you're going to go, how you're going to travel, even things like you need a wagon, to put your kids in. Like anytime you're going to try to stick to what you know as much as you possibly can. So everyone here has went on vacation. If you've got kids, you've taken your kids on a vacation. You've went through some of this. You know how your kids are going to be when they're tired. So you're trying to incorporate as much of that into your plan as you possibly can. So what will activate that plan? Well, those are called triggers. So a trigger is what will activate your plan. Now, hopefully that's been part of your plan is what are we looking for? Obviously if something like the sirens go off and they're saying, evacuation sirens, which pretty much everywhere has, right? So evacuation sirens go off, you get an alert on your phone. It's like, okay, evacuate these areas. And this is actually something that does happen for a lot of people, especially if they're in wooded areas where they'll get an evacuation notice. People who live by the ocean, that maybe there's a tsunami warning or one of those things. Check out what the local warning systems are in your area. So check out what they are. And a lot of times they will test them. So we get the tests on the phone all the time, right? I live in Snohomish County. So Snohomish County gives these warning tests all the time. So you just follow whatever the sirens are, whatever the directions tell you, or whatever your phone alerts you to do, and you just get out of there. You just follow the instructions and you get out of there. So obviously that's a trigger. But other triggers are maybe not things that are public triggers. Maybe there's something that is private to you, where you're thinking, hey, you know what? We don't like the way that these riots are growing. So even though there has been no public trigger, you're like, this is a good time for a weekend away. This is a good time for a midweek break. That should become your motto, especially if you have kids. Your motto should become when a disaster, when anything that you think can be problematic, your motto is, this is a good time for a break. Take a few days off work. Most people in jobs, most employers are pretty understanding. And I'm sorry if you have one of those employers who's not. But you know what? It's still not worth it. It's still not worth hanging out. If you've got that discernment that you're trusting, like I was saying earlier, and you just feel like this is not good. This is not good. And you've prayed about it. And you're making the decision, okay, we're going to move. We're going to go. You revert to your plan, where you're going, you know where you're going, you know what you're taking. All of this is being pre-planned. So trust in that process. Don't stay too long. What I've kind of shared in other videos is people stay too long. There's no reason to. It's much better to apologize. It's much better to just take a, do whatever, follow your plan. And just go, and then have to give apologies when you come back and say, hey, I'm really sorry, nothing ended up happening, but we just felt like we had to get out of here. We just didn't want to take any chances with the kids. Hopefully the people will be understanding, but even if they're not, you shouldn't risk that. You shouldn't take any risks of staying too long. I've seen it happen in Ukraine a lot, and when I was over there, people kept waiting to the absolute last minute before they would leave with their kids. So they were literally waiting, even though they had plenty of opportunity. And there was a lot of Ukrainians, especially at the beginning of the war, that were surprised, and they didn't have any opportunity whatsoever. So, but for the people that when I was there, that we were rescuing, especially in my second trip to Ukraine, those people they had plenty of notice, but yet they kept waiting. They kept waiting, and it was kind of heartbreaking because some of these families didn't make it, because they didn't want to leave their stuff. So listen, stuff is replaceable. If you believe in God, if you follow Jesus, there is nothing that you've got that God has not given to you that he can't give back to you. You don't even know if your stuff is going to get destroyed if you leave. What cannot be replaced is you and your family. That is irreplaceable. So trust your instincts. You've got to pray about this. And do not act in fear. Even though we're talking about heavy topics right now, you cannot act in fear. Fear is going to mess with your discernment. It is going to mess with your instincts. So you have to have a process to learn how to manage that fear so that you can listen to your instincts. A lot of people take my classes and they are just, their head state, they're just in fear all the time. So I really worry if they're going to be able to follow the triggers properly that I teach in my class, because I worry that the fear, they're just going to start overreacting all the time. If you get that discernment, if you're worried for whatever reason and you feel like, hey, you know what, this could really turn into something, just take a break. Just, pack up all your stuff that you have planned to take with you, everything that you've prepared, and just go. Just go and stay. Go and stay with friends. Pack a tent, go camping. Go visit family. Go stay in a hotel. Depending on whatever your finances allow, just go and do something. Just get out of there, so that you're getting out of the densely populated areas if that's where you live. If you live in an area that's going to be prone to some kind of forest fire or tsunami or earthquake or whatever the case is, just try to get somewhere that would be less vulnerable than where you're at. That's doing your threat assessment. This thing is attacking me. So, okay, so pray. Please pray. You've got to pray about this kind of situation. You've got to pray that you have the peace of God and the Holy Spirit around you when it comes to making these decisions. And I do believe if you pray over these situations, that God will give you guidance. I have felt God's guidance in so many different things in my life. But don't find yourself in a compromising situation over your stuff. If these triggers that you have planned for, if you're trusting your discernment, then just go. If you see things like civil unrest, there's riots starting to take place. It's you've just went through a really hot summer, and now you're hearing about forest fires that are kicking off in certain areas. The wind is now blowing in your direction. Don't stay and try to protect your property, because this happens to maybe thousands or tens of thousands of people across this planet every year who end up losing their lives for their stuff. It's just, when I went down to Hurricane Harvey in Texas, I went down to the Gulf. So there's this wee town called Rockport down there, and we went down there, and the town was, I would say, 50% destroyed. From the water that came in, or mostly from the winds, and it was 50% destroyed. And I started hearing these crazy stories, because a lot of people did get evacuation notices, so a lot of people left. So they got the evacuation notice and they left. But a lot of the people we met down there were people who stayed. And I started hearing crazy stories, like people that whenever it got so bad, this one guy ratcheted himself to a tree. So he was so worried about getting swept away in the wind, he ratcheted himself to a tree. Now, here's the thing is, when you do that, you literally don't know how high the water levels are going to get. I mean, he went up a hill and ratcheted himself to a tree that was on the highest point of his property. But you still don't know if that's going to be high enough. You don't know if the tree is going to be taken away in the winds. Like some of the stories I heard down there of what people were doing, literally tying themselves off to things because they were worried of getting swept away because of their stuff. My brain couldn't process that. There is literally nothing that I own. And like I said in a previous video, like everything I own is pretty much tied up in my house. But there's nothing that I own that is more valuable to me than my life. That's more valuable to me than the life of my wife and my children. So if one of these triggers is triggered, leave. Don't stay. You get a warning and that's it, you're gone. And even if it's something that other people don't recognize and it turns out to be nothing, it turns into absolutely nothing, that's okay. Apologize. Apologize. Apologize sincerely. It's like, it's no big deal. To me, it's no big deal to be safe than having to deal with the consequences of you staying too long and then having to deal with that guilt and that remorse of you or somebody in your family getting hurt because you waited too long and you didn't pay attention to what you knew you were supposed to do. I don't want to have any more of those regrets in my life where I knew what I should have done and didn't do it. I allowed myself to be talked out of it. If your plan is triggered, go. Okay. I'm going to try to keep these videos right around the 10-minute mark. So this will be video number 2. Please pray for peace around this situation. Pray that God would bless you, that you would have no worries or issues if this was to take place.